Welcome everyone to the College Board released SAT practice test number 5. Today I will walk you through section 3, the no calculator math section. And so without further ado, question number 1. Which of the following is an equation of line L in the xy plane above? So we can tell that our y-intercept is at positive 1, and so we need this to be a y equals equation. So automatically A is not true because x equals 1 would have looked like a vertical line up and down like this. Y equals 1 looks like a horizontal line. Y equals 1 like this, so it's not y equals 1. Y equals x has no y-intercept, unlike D, which does have a y-intercept of 1, which is what we need, so y1 equals D. Number 2, the circle above with center O has a circumference of 36. What is the length of minor arc AC? So if the entire circumference is 36, and our circle is cut into 4 pieces, as evidenced by this right angle, that means that arc length AC is only 1/4 around the circle. So it's 36 divided by 4, which equals 9. Number 3, what are the solutions of the quadratic equation 4x squared minus 8x minus 12? So I like to always write it out. And now what can we divide every single term by? That's a 4. So we get x squared minus 2x minus 3, and then factor x minus 3 and x plus 1. And now we need to solve. So setting these both equal to 0. X minus 3 equals 0, and x plus 1 equals 0. We get x equals positive 3 and x equals negative 1. Very important that the signs flip. So positive 3, negative 1, 3 is B. Which of the following is an example of a function whose graph in the xy plane has no x-intercepts? So no x-intercepts means that there are no times where the graph, like this example, crosses the x-axis. So we don't want that. So let's start drawing out all 4 of these graphs and see what we get. A is a linear function whose rate of change is not 0. So the slope cannot be horizontal like this. So that means that eventually, for example, if it's a not 0 rate of change or a non-zero slope, it might look something like this, which does indeed cross the x-axis. So let's see what B says. A quadratic function with real zeros. Real zeros means it crosses the x-axis, so that doesn't work. Let's look at what C says. A quadratic function with no real zeros. That's perfect because those quadratics look something like this. They hover above the x-axis because they only have imaginary solutions. So 4C. 5, in the equation above, k is a constant. If x equals 9, what is the value of k? So let's substitute in what we know. So square root of k plus 2 minus x, or in this case, since x is 9, minus 9 equals 0. We're going to add 9 to both sides. And now to undo square roots, we got to square both sides. So k plus 2 equals 81, minus 2 from both sides, we get k equals 79. So 5 is D. Which of the following is equivalent to the sum of the expressions a squared minus 1 and a plus 1? That's the question for number 6. And so we have to just add together what we see here. So we see an a squared and an a, so a squared plus a, and a minus 1 plus 1. So minus 1 plus 1, that's a 0. So we're looking for a squared plus a, which is a. Number 7, Jackie has 2 summer jobs. She works as a tutor, which pays $12 per hour, and she works as lifeguard, which pays $9.50 per hour. She can work no more than 20 hours per week, but she wants to earn at least $220 per week. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents this situation in terms of x and y, where x is the number of hours she tutors and y is the number of hours she works at the lifeguard? So let's look at the first inequality statement. She wants to earn at least $220 per week. That means that the inequality sign has to be facing away from the 220 because the hours, for example, in C and D, the number of hours that she works for her pay must be greater than 220. So 220 is less than what she wants to earn. So we can cross out A and B, and that leaves us with C and D. So the next part of this question says she doesn't want to work more than 20 hours. So 20 hours is the maximum she wants to work. And that's what C shows, 20 being greater than X and Y, which are the hours she works for her other jobs. So 7 is C. Number 8. In air, the speed of sound S in meters per second is a linear function of the air temperature, T, in degrees Celsius, and is given by S of T equals 0.6 T plus 331.4. Which of the following statements is the best interpretation of the number 331.4 in this context? Let's evaluate all of these different choices. So let's start with A. The speed of sound in meters per second at 0 degrees Celsius. Well, if I plug in 0 for temperature, so that's S of 0 equals 0.6 times 0 plus 331.4, I would get S of 0 equals 0 plus 331.4, or the temperature at 0 degrees Celsius equaling 331.4 degrees. Or the speed of sound, rather. So that works, so 8 is A. Number 9. If xy is a solution of the system of equations above and x is greater than 0, what is the value of xy? So we have a substitution, because y equals x squared. Let's find wherever y is in our second equation and plug in x squared. So 2 times x squared plus 6 equals 2 times x plus 3. Distribute on both sides. 2x squared plus 6 equals 2x plus 6. Minus 6 from both sides, the 6's cancel, leaving us with 2x squared equals 2x. Move everything to one side, so subtract 2x from both sides. We get 2x squared minus 2x equals 0. So what can we divide out of both of these terms? That's a 2x, so 2x, x minus 1 equals 0. And now x must be greater than 0, so this 2x out here, which would give a solution of 0, does not count. So x minus 1 equals 0, and so x equals 1 is one of our solutions. Now let's plug in 1 into either of these equations, which makes it easier to plug it into the first one. Y equals 1 squared, so y equals 1. So x and y equal 1. What's the value of x times y? Well, 1 times 1 is just 1. So 9 is A. 10. If a squared plus b squared equals z, and a times b equals y, which of the following is equivalent to 4z plus 8y? Well, let's substitute in our z and y. So 4 times a squared plus b squared plus 8 times a times b. We can distribute, so 4a squared plus 4b squared plus 8ab. And now we can see, let's divide everything by 4 because they all share a 4, common factor of 4. So we get a squared plus, let's write this ab term in the middle, so 2ab plus b squared. And if you can recognize what this factors to, we get 4 times a plus b squared. You can FOIL this out to double check. And so now what we have to look back at is which of the following is equivalent to what we just wrote down here. And so if we were to FOIL out everything, if we were to FOIL this out, we would get what we had before, the 4a squared plus 4b squared plus 8ab. So this is what's really important. We have to see if any of these choices matches this if we were to FOIL it out. And we can do that by squaring the first term. So if we had to do a plus 2b squared during the FOILing process, we would multiply a by itself. So this would only give us a squared, but we need 4a squared, so that will not work. Let's look at what C and D, they both have 4a. Well, 4a squared is 16a squared, but we need 4a squared. That's too much, leaving 10 to be B. Number 11, the volume of a right circular cylinder, A, is 22 cubic centimeters. What is the volume in cubic centimeters of a right circular cylinder with twice the radius and half the height of cylinder A? So for volume of a right cylinder, it's just pi r squared, which is the area of a circle, times h. And so cylinder A has a cylinder area, or volume of 22. Let's try plugging in what we were given for a new volume formula. Pi, and now 2r, because of twice the radius, so 2r squared, times 1/2 height. Right? And so now we can multiply this out. We get v equals 2r squared is 4r squared, so 4 pi r squared times the 1/2 h. Well, we can multiply the 4 and the 1/2, which equals 2, so we equal volume equals 2 pi r squared h, which is simply twice the volume of our original cylinder. So 2 times the air, 2 times the volume of A, 2 times 22 is 44. Number 12, which of the following is equivalent to 9 to the 3/4 power? As I've shown in previous videos, if you have an exponential power, the numerator goes on the inside and the denominator goes on the outside. So this would leave us with 9 cubed all to the 4th root. And so immediately we can see that this does not match up with A or B because they're missing. A has the wrong index and B does not have 9 cubed. But now we recognize that C and D are a little bit tricky because they have the interior, the inside of that radical is a 3. So is there any way that we can rewrite our original exponential power to make it easier on us? Well, yes. We can rewrite the 9 as a 3 squared all to the 3/4 power. Then applying our power rules, 2 times 3/4 equals 6/4, which reduces to 3/2 by dividing both 6 and 4 by 2. Now we have 3 to the 3/2 power. And so now 3 to the 3/2 power, 3 goes on the inside, and the 2 on the outside, which in this case 2 square roots don't need to show the 2. 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, or square root of 27, which we can tell right away is not going to be C, leaving us with a D. And if you wanted to, you could solve for the radical 27. It would end up being radical 3 times radical 3. Number 13, which at a restaurant, n cups of tea are made by adding tea bags to hot water. If t equals n plus 2, how many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea? So, how many additional tea bags are needed to make each additional cup of tea? So I'm going to rewrite this equation in terms of n. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, getting t minus 2 equals n. Because we're making tea with tea bags, I prefer to have n by itself. So now, if I want to make 3 cups of tea, so 3 equals n, my teacup, my bags of tea will be 5. If I want to make 4 cups of tea, now n equals 4, well, I simply plug in 4 for n and solve for the number of tea bags that is required to make it. So t minus 2 equals 4, plus 2 to both sides, t equals 6. So earlier, when 3 was n, t equaled 5. But when n is 4, t equals 6. So we need 1 additional tea bag to make 1 additional cup of tea. So 13 is B. 14, the function f is defined by the equation above. Which of the following is the graph of y equals negative f of x? So whenever you have this negative on the outside of the f of x, that means that your y values flip, or a reflection across the x-axis. So whatever was, for example, if there was a parabola like this, now it looks like this, because all the y values flipped. So now we need to figure out, what does the graph of y equals 2 to the x plus 1 look like? Well, it's exponential, and if we plug in 0, we can find out our y-intercept. 2 to the 0 plus 1 is 1 plus 1 equals 2. So at 0, 2, we have our y-intercept, and all exponential functions that are positive will look something like this. So we need to have the flipped version, which would look like this, right? Because it's just flipped over. It's reflected over the x-axis. And so now we need to look for this, which is not A, not B, but look at what C and D. Remember earlier how we had our y-intercept of 0, 2? Now that it's flipped over the x-axis, remember I said that all the y values flip. That means that they now change signs. So now it's 0, negative 2. And which of these graphs shows a y-intercept of 0, negative 2? Well, that's C. Number 15, Alan drives an average of 100 miles each week. His car can travel an average of 25 miles per gallon of gasoline. Alan would like to reduce his weekly expenditure on gasoline by $5. Assuming gasoline costs $4 per gallon, which equation can Alan use to determine how many fewer average miles and he should drive each week? So we need to figure out how many dollars it costs him to travel per mile, and then multiply that by the number of miles will give us how much money he saves. So with $4 per gallon divided by 25 miles per gallon, the gallons cancel out, leaving us with $4 per 25 miles. So this gives us a dollars per mile ratio, then times the number of miles will equal how many miles he has to drive to save however much money. And we want to reduce his weekly expenditure by $5. And so this equation we just made looks similar to D. So 15 is D. Maria plans to rent a boat. The boat rental costs $60 per hour, and she will also have to pay for a water safety course that costs $10. Maria wants to spend no more than $280 for the rental and the course. If the boat rental is available only for a whole number of hours, what is the maximum number of hours for which Maria can rent the boat? So we know that we can write out an equation. So $60 per hour, so 60H plus 10 must be less than 280, less than or equal to, because Maria does not want to spend more than 280. So 280 is the maximum, and then we simply solve for H number of hours and round down to the nearest whole number. So minus 10 for both sides. 60H is less than or equal to 270, and then we can divide 270 all by 60. That would give us 4, and then 240, and now we're getting into the fractions. So we get 4.5, but rounding down to the nearest whole number of hours, which is 4, because available for only a whole number of hours. Number 17, what value of P is the solution of the equation above? So let's distribute both. So we get 2P plus 2 plus 8P minus 8 equals 5P. 2P plus 8P is 10P. 2 minus 8 is negative 6 equals 5P minus 5P from both sides. 5P minus 6 equals 0. Add 6. 5P equals 6. Divide everything by 5. We get P equals 6 over 5. Now for number 18, The system of equations above has solution xy. What is the value of x? Well, we have y equals 2x right here, so let's substitute in for y in our first equation. So 1/2 2x plus 2x equals 21 over 2. What's 2x plus 2x? That's a 4x, so 1/2 of 4x equals 21 over 2. 1/2 of 4x is just half of the 4, so 2x equals 21 over 2. Times 2 on both sides to get rid of that fraction on the right side. 4x equals 21, divide everything by 4, and we get x equals 21 over 4. But now for writing this in the bubble sheet, you're going to have to write it as 21 divided by 4 as a decimal, which is going to be 5.25. Number 19, the expression above is equivalent to a divided by x plus 2 quantity squared, where a is a positive constant and x does not equal -2. What is the value of a? So we have 2x plus 6 divided by x plus 2 squared minus 2 divided by x plus 2. So we need to make a common denominator with both of our fractions. So to do that, we can see that this first fraction denominator is x plus 2 squared. So we need to multiply our other second fraction by x plus 2, not simply squaring it, because now we'll get x plus 2 squared on the bottom, and now we can just distribute our numerator on the top. So we get 2x plus 6, x plus 2 squared minus 2x minus 4, because it's a minus, so -2, over x plus 2 squared. 2x minus 2x is 0. 6 minus 4 and now we can distribute the 2. So we get 2x plus 6 over x plus 2 squared minus 2x plus 4 divided by x plus 2 squared. 2x minus 2x is 0. 6 minus 4 is 2. And so a equals 2. Number 20. We have intersecting lines R, S, and T are shown below. What is the value of x? So we can see right away we can solve for this interior angle because it and 106 are supplementary angles. So 180 minus 106, because supplementary means that they add up to 180. That would give us 74 degrees. And now you can find this other interior angle of this triangle by doing 180 minus 23 minus 74. And so when we do all that, we would get 83 degrees. And so now we have 83 on this right here. And now the x and the 83 are also supplementary angles. So 180 minus 83 is 97 degrees. That's what x equals. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, any comments, leave a comment down below. I will be recording and posting more of these in the coming weeks. And if you have any questions that are specific, eventually I would like to make a YouTube Shorts channel where I answer specific math questions or other standardized test questions. And so start leaving those below and I'll start looking through them and hopefully start making some shorts soon. And so thank you for watching. Keep studying.